Okay, so let's take a quick look at this boxman that has been submitted. The first thing I noticed, let's compare it against the email, the image that you sent me, where everything seems to be all broken and stuff. Normally, I see this whenever people double name a specific angle. So if an angle, a part is named here, let's see here, in your case, it's left arm 0, and then you have the 45 angle and you use the same name on that one instead of actually switching to that angle, I do see similar results. But in this case, I can already see some things that are kind of off. For one, let's see here. Okay, well, this is set up to groups. It's perfectly fine if they're grouped, as long as they are not named exactly the same thing. We have the properties panel here. You can see right here is the right arm 0 pivot. This one is the left arm 0 pivot, so that's fine. The only problem is that these things are not actually where the pivots are supposed to be. So here's the left arm 0, here's the left arm 0 pivot. Here's the forearm, and I'm assuming this is the forearm 0 pivot. So let's adjust the position of these pivots to a more appropriate location so that, for example, whenever this thing pivots around, it'll use that as a pivot, so it'll go like this instead of the previous location, which was basically telling it to be over here so that this part would go like this. So let's go ahead and put those back into the rightful place. So something like that should be okay. The next thing is, okay, these are kind of off as well. Let's see here, right thigh 0, right thigh 0 pivots. So these pivots are also at the wrong spot. So can quickly adjust these. And when it comes to certain things, you want to keep them in a straight line. I like to use the grid. Let's see here, view and the rulers. Because this way I can grab little lines here. All right, so we're going to just kind of align these things so it just kind of fall in place right there. Maybe push the pivot point of these legs a little higher. Because really, where the pivot is, that's where the foot is going to rotate. Now, the other thing is that this character is already going to have those spaces there because technically, there should be an overlap between the joints. So these should actually be more like this if you expect them to have, like, you know, to be connected to each other. Otherwise, you are going to end up with those little spaces there, but that's like on purpose. The other thing that we're missing a neck and we're missing a hip. And those are key points because if you don't place a neck or a hip, then you end up causing stuff to break. So let's see here. And you don't always need them. So in this case, I'm going to create one. just to keep it in the same style that you have it. I could have done that, or I could have easily just kept that original box if you just wanted the whole big box there instead of having like a separate hip and torso. I could have done that and maybe used practically invisible thing for the hip, placed it up here, so technically I still have it, but in case you don't want to have them separate, you can kind of cheat that way, where this would be the torso and this invisible part right here, practically invisible, would be your hip. So you can get away by having an invisible hip, and your audience will only see this big box by doing something like that. So if you didn't want to have a neck, we could cheat and have your invisible shape be the neck right here. So that's my neck, that's my torso, and that's my hip, and those two parts are invisible. But in this case, just for the sake of being able to see what parts need to be there, I'm gonna go ahead and actually create this neck. And place the appropriate hips. Now again, your head, the nub is just the little blue part. That's just, goes on the outside. It controls, like, being able to pull it and stuff. The pivot itself is the rotation point. So we want the head to be able to rotate itself around that part like this. Okay. Now here's my neck. I can see, well, since these already have names, I'm going to select all of these and mixed. Where's mixed? I don't see it. Okay, so here's the torso 0, and torso 0. I am going to pull up my puppet producer. I'll use that eraser function right here. And that basically cleans it out so it doesn't have that name instance anymore. Alright. I'm going to take a quick look at the timeline. Let's see, control, commands, window, timeline. Make sure there's no hidden parts. See, there's a little pivot right there. Face 0 pivot. What's that one? There's the upper torso. So the face one, yeah, you have to make sure you put these in the right spot. So this is your pivot for the face. This is your upper torso. I'm going to go ahead and delete that one since I cleaned out that torso. Let's see, there's no more Maverick pivots. So here we go. Click on the neck. Click on the neck. The pivot point gets placed exactly where the center line point is, or the registration point. So if my registration point's on the center, it usually gets placed on the center. There's a small, except on like the torso and hip, it does use a different placement. But in general, it'll use that center point as a place to put the pivot. Again, the neck will adjust the pivot to the point where it's going to rotate. So in this case, we want it to rotate along that spot right there. So let's take a quick preview. So it'll rotate like that. And of course, it'll take that head with it whenever it does that. Let's see here. So torso. See how we use that pivot point? So the only exception really is the hip. Now the torso itself, I pretty much recommend placing it right at that edge. This is because whenever this puppet moves around, you want it to rotate along this part here. Okay? And the hip, let's see, we'll click the hip. There he goes. That's fine. You don't have to move it or anything. You can just leave it there. So we have the head, the neck, the torso, the hip. Those are very crucial points. A lot of these can be left out or made invisible. Well, all parts can be made invisible. But if you leave out an essential part, the puppet will break. The other part is your hands. And there's two parts to the hands. I'm going to go ahead and do it a different color just so that we can kind of see it better. Alright, so convert it to a symbol. We'll just duplicate it. Okay, so there's a couple things to the hands. Also the mouth, the eyes, the nose, those body parts. Those can be left out for now. But when it comes to the hands, they kind of work exactly the same way that the mouth and the eyes work. I'm going to go ahead and configure this one. This is the right hand. And this is the left hand. Alrighty. And just going to adjust this pivot point a little bit to give them a point to pivot around. Maybe right there. That should be okay. If we export this puppet right now, let's see. I'm gonna bring in Crazy Talk. And the procedure is exactly the same in Crazy Talk Animator 2 as well as in Crazy Talk Animator 3. So we're going to bring in an actor, character, we need a G2 actor. This guy's perfectly fine. And then we'll go to the composer mode. And we'll import the SWF movie. Here it is. And we'll just import it. Now, you'll notice something that's still a little bit off when you bring it in. And that is that even though we created hands, the hands are not here. That's because there are multiple levels of the hands. Let's take a quick look at that. So even though the hands are configured, see right hand 0, it's there. It has its own pivot and everything. We're going to double click on this hand. And inside of this hand, it's basically a shape. If we click on the hand button here for Puppet Producer, we can see that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 different frames that I have to work with. So technically I have to create 11 different hands, and that's done across 11 different frames from frame 1 all the way up to frame 11. So here's frame 1, and we have to have at least that one hand. We select it and we call it, we click on the relaxed hand. So now inside of this overall symbol, I have one symbol called relaxed, basically. The instance name is called relaxed. So I can go in here and add another frame, F7. I use the F7 function key to create a new blank keyframe. So this one's going to be empty. So here, I'll put another hand, and this is going to be for that victory hand. That's this one here. Victory. And then frame number 3, if you don't want to use the function keys, you can always right click the symbol, the frame, and insert blank keyframe. It'll do the same thing. So let's see here. All right, so now we have that hand selected. Click the 7 button. So based on the frame number, that's the type of hand gesture you're supposed to have. Let me see if I have a previously built one. Let's take a look at this one. Okay, so there's that hand. So notice how this particular character has all 11 hands, and in each frame you have the appropriate hand gesture, and each one has been configured. So for example, this one on frame 11 is the thumb, you know, kind of like a thumbs up type of thing. So that's how that works. I'm only going to do those on this box character for demo purposes. So we have at least 3 hands. In general, if you just need something basic just to test, you know, you could just leave that first frame. But as long as you have the relaxed hand defined, you should be fine. So I'm going to get out of there. So that takes care of like the full body. You're still missing a face, but it pretty much works exactly the same way. Let's see here. We'll go in here, import the SWF. And you can see that now that hand is there. So I can also go in here, double click on that, and you can see I have my different sprites for the different hands. Because it allows you to choose like which gestures you want at whatever point you need them to be. So for now, I'm just going to put that there so you can see that I am able to switch that. Let's do a quick calibration. Let's just do a basic walk. It's not too bad. And if you do only need this character to be a single angle character, there is a, let's see here, modified turn to multi-angle character. And all the sprites from this angle will be copied over to the other one, to the other angles. So technically you'll end up with a much smoother single angle character. So that's how you would pull off something like that. Now you don't always have to use that. You only use that when you are working with just a single angle character and you just want to duplicate those body parts into the other angles. If you are going to be actually switching the angles, you're going to end up with some weird results because that's not really what, you know, those other angles are supposed to look like. But for single angle characters, you can use the convert to multi-angle thing. It'll work just fine. All right, so hopefully that gives you an idea on how to put these things together. If you have any other questions, feel free to write me back, and yeah, we'll take it from there. Thanks.